We welcome Augusta University political scientist Craig Albert, no stranger to the Means Report. And I'm grateful to Craig for coming back because you make it very easy. You know how the Means Report works. And really, thanks a lot for continuing to come back.
Thanks for having me.
I was going to ask you as my first question if you saw this coming, but you were quite honest during our last interview, and you said that you weren't going to predict the election, and you outlined a few scenarios that were going to unfold. So I guess I'll start with this, Craig. Trump won. Did the media trick us into thinking that Clinton was going to? Do you buy into that?
I do buy into it a little bit, not just the media, but let me say more the pollsters.
Right, okay.
And so I think they were just astonished that Donald Trump was running and didn't think he could win. And they started viewing and interviewing and polling Americans, and Americans were saying that they were going to vote for Clinton, but they left off a large section of the population. So most of these media groups, big media groups, most of these pollsters did not go to rural America. They did not poll these types of individuals because they historically have low voter turnout. And this time, Donald Trump got them to come out and got them to come out in massive turnout.
What made them, well, before we get to what made them come out in such large numbers, we sort of discussed this last time, and it was the theory that even if they were polled, these Trump supporters, right, that they wouldn't answer or wouldn't answer honestly. Do you think a lot of that, in fact, happened?
Absolutely. People have been coming out and coming clean with it.
Yeah.
Kellyanne Conway, of course, Trump's campaign manager, said to always expect the hidden Trump person, the hidden Trump vote. And she was right. She was dead on that. People were being called racist, misogynist, sexist, all of these things for voting for Donald Trump. I'm not sure many of these rural Americans, working class Americans, know what those terms mean. I mean, they know what they mean, but they don't really hold true to that. That's not how they define themselves. And so they were like, if I'm going to be judged this way, I'm not going to tell anybody for whom I'm voting.
So what motivated them? Was it more support for Trump or rejection of Clinton?
I think for the rural working class, it was support of Trump. Mm-hmm. And this is an economic election for them. Mm-hmm. Even though the economy has turned around in the past few years, job numbers are better, housing numbers are better. As far as money in your wallet, these working class Americans have not seen a massive change, and they're feeling it. Some of these people are, the most hard-working backbone people of America, and they don't have good income. They don't have good savings account. They're struggling paycheck to paycheck, millions of these Americans. And for them, regardless of how Trump handles himself or what he says, they believe he can bring economic impact to their personal wallets. And Americans are rational choice voters, meaning they vote for the economy.
I'm not going to save this for my last question. I want to get to it because I think it's important. How are your students at Augusta University reacting to this? What are you hearing from those young people, because they were a key part of this?
Yeah, it's interesting. Some of them have said, they're just glad that the election is over. Mm-hmm. A lot of them said, which the exit polls tell us, they just didn't vote. They could not decide at the last minute which one they liked more or who they liked less than the other candidate. And so a lot of them said that they did not vote. And we actually had a good conversation about this week, and they said they were just turned off by the process, that they didn't know for whom to vote, and this was sad for them.
What do you tell somebody who says, I might sit this one out, or I did sit this one out? Do you say anything to them? Do you offer advice, or you just kind of take that as information?
So I kind of see my job as a professor of political science to instill within citizens the necessary point of voting. And so I make it very clear that so many people, underrepresented people, women, African Americans, have been left out of the electoral process for so long in this country. Now that we have this, we have voting rights for everybody. This is not just a responsibility, it's a duty, it's an obligation to vote. This is what political philosophers say define us as citizens, as being engaged and actively voting. So even if you go, and I told my family this, so personally I was like, Mom, it doesn't matter for whom you vote, go. You can even leave the top of the ballot blank. It's the act of going to the poll and having your voice heard, regardless of what that voice is, that is so critical to the foundations of this republic.
I agree, and no matter who you vote for, there's a feeling when I turn in that card at that precinct that so many people went before me to give that privilege. It's overwhelming every election day. Dr. Albert, what about the belief or suspicion that the Electoral College might mess this whole thing up for Trump, and because she won the popular vote, give the election to Clinton? Any validation or truth to that?
No, often the Electoral College doesn't match the popular vote. This isn't conspiracy. This is just the way sometimes it happens. I want to make it very clear to people. I'm glad you brought this up.
Yeah.
The Electoral College is a necessary foundational entity for the United States of America. So we understand that yesterday, Senator Barbara Boxer from California filed legislation to get rid of the Electoral College.
Right.
This happens after every election by whichever party did not win the Electoral College. It is a security function for our constitutional structure. It protects people from themselves. It protects small states from big states. This is one of the key points of the constitutional compromise in 1787 was the Electoral College. It's not necessarily called that, but it is necessary. It protects us from demagoguery, from the rise of a dictator, from the rise of what Tocqueville, the great French political philosopher, would say, tyranny of the majority. It protects people often from ourselves. We have to have the Electoral College. And make no mistake, even though there are some legislators that file for it to be amended, that's never going to happen. It is such a complicated process. Not only does it have to pass both houses of Congress for an amendment of this to the Constitution by majority numbers, it also has to pass in a supermajority form all state legislation.
Okay.
It's never going to happen.
Not going to happen.
No, we've only had 27 amendments, period. It's a hard process.
Help me understand the protests, especially the ones that we saw right after election night. Are they real, or are these paid for and organized by Trump opponents?
I think you might have a little bit of that paid agitator. That's normal nowadays in modern politics. But no, we should take these protests seriously. There are people that now feel alienated from the political process. Underrepresented groups, minorities, some groups feel that their voice wasn't heard. So this is politics. We have to take their side very seriously, while at the same time echoing out the point that President Obama and Secretary Clinton have done so well the past couple weeks, that this is the way the system works. So it's natural to go out and protest that your side didn't win, but you have to accept the results in a transitioning democracy, transitioning presidents, for it to be peaceful. And the world looks to us for this. This is a fundamental process that only the United States does so perfectly. Give up. One side gives up power peacefully to the other side. So let's take them seriously. Let's hear what their concerns are. The working class has been heard by voting in Trump, but for Trump to be a successful president, he has to reach out to the 60 million people that didn't vote for him.
When you say reach out, does that mean appoint people that they like, choose cabinet members that the opposition likes? How can he mend fences with them?
I think that's a bad effect if Donald Trump would do that. As President Obama once famously said, there are consequences of who wins the presidency. And Donald Trump has the right to appoint whomever he wants to every position. What he needs to do, and I think this is good for any politician, is to clearly express why he's doing what he's doing, and then to be honest about it. The American people will trust you if you talk to them and tell them your reasons very clearly. Don't be political, don't be go into pundit mode and just like opine. Give them the reasons you're doing this, and then say, look, give me time. This is what I believe. This is why I believe it. I'm going to wait for the results, and then I'm open to change if it doesn't work.
I'll try not to make this question too long, but I'd like you to address to those people who are fearful, those people who are apprehensive about what the future might hold, how they should think and how they should get through each day, because I've heard that it doesn't matter who your president is when it comes to your day-to-day life. You still must get out of bed. You still must report to your job or to your school and live your life and carry out your routine. Still, though, there are people who think their life will be wrecked because of the man in charge. Your thoughts on that, from a historical and certainly a political science perspective?
For day-to-day living, it's hard for a president to make drastic changes. Some of the things that candidate Trump said that he would do are literally impossible to do.
Like what?
So build a wall, making Mexico pay for it. I'm not so sure he's going to build a physical wall. I think what he means is more symbolically, he's going to increase border security. Now, he might try to build a wall, or in some instances, maybe a 1,000-mile fence that there's already on the border. But I don't think he's going to build this, 45-foot giant cement structure all the way across the border. I don't think he can do that. But he's going to have to appease his base, so he's going to have to do something there. But this is what's great about the United States of America. This is why so many political philosophers call our country an exceptional country. What it means is that we were based on the foundations of philosophy. checks and balances, the premise of the Enlightenment experiment across Europe and America is this idea that we have political institutions that check other political institutions. You know, in Federalist 51 by James Madison, he writes, ambition must be made to counteract ambition. So all of the branches of government are given an amount of power to check the other branches of government, to restrain and constrain any type of dictatorial or usurpation of power. Even if Trump wanted to be as aggressive and a strong man, as he said in some instances on the campaign trail, that's impossible to happen because the institution, our sacred institutions, constrain that so much. And more importantly, we have a unified government for the first time since the first 2 years of the Barack Obama administration. Everything rests on the Republican Party now. If they do anything too controversial, they're out. If they don't do anything that's successful, they're out. They have to be a legacy right now. They have to make do, because otherwise the world is going to know that you did not follow through with your commitment, and so they'll lose. So for Democrats or people that are unhappy with the result, what I have to say is in 2 years, that's the most you have to wait to institute change for the 2018 midterm elections.
Well said. As always, Craig Albert, thank you for your insight.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
Dr. Craig Albert, political scientist at Augusta University, and our frequent guest here on the Means Report.